trustee is actually in transit right now, and we're also waiting for Lynn. So that'll just give us a little bit of, just of time. I'm going to wait a couple minutes for Lynn. Then we're going to start our the presentation from middle stage, allowing the student trustee to arrive. And once he arrives, we'll have quorum and can call the meeting officially to order. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
So is the public, is this streaming to the public now though? Okay, great, thank you.
Did she say yes? I wasn't working.
Morning, how are you?
Okay.
Correct. We are not streaming yet, right?
We are streaming right now.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
So, I'll give another maybe 2 minutes to see if Lynn comes in, and if he
I see
and if he
him
does
right
not,
now.
we'll go right into the middle states presentation.
See him down the
Oh, he's here.
Good morning, Len. Len, just so you're aware, Denise has to participate remotely.
Sure.
And our student trustee is going to be late due to auto problems. So we're going to jump right into a presentation about
That's
middle
fine.
states.
Yeah, about that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So again, just a little out of order, I'll even wait to take roll until the student trustee is in attendance, and then we can officially go into the business of the meeting. But for now, may we have the presentation?
Yep. Kathy Colesto will be providing the presentation.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
So this is a presentation that we had done in our strategic planning committee, and thought that it would be relevant to share with the entire board. So I have a clicker. Does it work? There we go. Too fast. Sorry. Back it up. So I noticed you put the mission and the vision on your name placards. Thank you. And I wanted to start there with our mission and our vision statement, and just kind of ground us all in the work that the college is here to do, first and foremost for students, and making sure that we're contributing to that regional economic vitality by providing students with a flexible education that allows them to contribute to the economy of the region. When we look at that, the one thing that we noticed as we were going through this, kind of setting us up to rewrite the strategic plan, since we had that extension until August of next year, we also started looking at our core values. And we found the section in our catalog where we have our core values. I know it's a little small on the screen, but our core values represent ERIE, efficiency, relevance, innovation, and entrepreneurship. But if you read them, none of them actually speak about the student or our service to the education of our community. And to me, that's somewhat troublesome. And when we look at the Suny Area Excel's strategic plan as it exists today, we can see that access, completion, engagement, operations, and success, we can take that middle portion, ECC, out of the center and put anything in there. I think I used the example of like Burger King or Walmart, right? We could put almost anything in there, and those five elements would pertain to almost anything. It doesn't talk about the actual service that the college provides to the region. So I just wanted to take a second to remind you of the 15 metrics that we wound up with. Originally, there were 30 metrics that the college was measuring, and we wound up settling on 15 as we found those 30 were too difficult to kind of maintain. And when we look at these a little closer, we can see some of these questions start popping up. Where are the students? Where is our focus on learning? And where do we have that connection back to the mission statement? And I have some bullets there of the kind of key phrases from the mission statement. And I've highlighted the few places of the 15 where we talk a little bit about students and student success. So completion, numbers 4 through 6, engagement 2018-8 talks a little bit about student satisfaction, and then success. We have those 3. And I'm not going to bore you too much with a lot of numbers, but I just wanted to spend a second showing you some of those metrics. These are from our Suny Erie Excel's report card. And you can see here that our goal of 62% first-time full-time retention was not met. That metric was, I believe, based on that 2009 at the far left of that chart. And you can see that we started to tick back up, but ever so slightly. This is a little deceiving in the way that it was designed, because those are fractions of a percent that you're seeing the fluctuation of. This is actually from iPads, our federal reporting system, and we can see that in 2019, we were at a 55% completion rate, first year, second year retention rate. 35% for our part-time students. So we were not meeting that goal, and the trajectory could almost say that that metric we were using was set too high or not realistic. Our degrees, this is correlated with our enrollment decline as well. We could not attain this number of 2,300 degrees and 500 certificates. As you can tell, we were 1,700 in 2019 and 333 certificates. This is correlated with the decline in enrollment, not necessarily indication of improved performance of the college or our learning, or decreased performance of our learning. It just seems to be in alignment with our enrollment trends. We had a metric of 3-year graduation rate. Did I skip one? This is from our Suny Erie Excel's report card. And you can see in here that 2018, the 3-year graduation rate wasn't filled in on this 2021 report card. But I went to iPads to get that information for us, and it indicates that we did meet that goal in 2019. We had a 3-year graduation rate of 25%. I still think that 100% completion rate at 13% should cause us all to pause. This is another metric we can look at from iPads again that is showing us our 8-year, so at 4 years, 6 years, and at 8 years, the completion rate of our students. This does compound, so these are just that 4-year, we add on the additional for the 6 and the 8, so there's not much of a change from that 6 to 8 year mark. So if a student doesn't complete in those 4 years, they're not typically completing with us.
And Kathy, this is graduating from Erie Community College, right?
Correct.
Not 4-year college.
Correct.
4-year of the first time. How long they take to graduate from here?
How long they take to graduate from here. I wanted to pull, this is again from iPads, I just wanted to pull, this is our completion status as of August 31st, 2020. I wanted to pull our demographic information so that you can see that 25% completion rate, so at that 150% mark, we have better performance with our female students, and then you can read through the numbers of our other demographics on there, and you can see that there's a disparity in completion. This is a little difficult. I think it is part of your package, but I would like you to pay attention to this. This is the top line, our community colleges, Suny community colleges in total. Their different measures across the top. So total degrees, 40.79% for the entire Suny Community College, and we are at 38%. Still enrolled, 7.6%, and Suny Erie is at 6.45. Our total attrition, community colleges across Suny are at 51.6, and we're at 55.68. And I'd like to drill into those numbers a little bit. Our city campus attrition is 66.5%. Degrees, I believe at the associate's initial, sort of the second from the left yellow column, we're on par with Suny, slightly better. But again, the disparity between our city campus and our other campuses is alarming.
Kathy, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So say somebody stops out during the first year. Do we have any way of assessing whether or not they rejoin the college in the second year? I mean, or is it just assumed, that's a separate data point?
All of this data was pulled from Suny BI, which gives students a unique identifier. And so it is tracking that student.
Perfect. Good, thank you.
So just some thoughts on Suny Erie Excels. The metrics that were defined seem quite arbitrary. They don't seem to be grounded in higher education, current higher education principles. They also, that met, not met trending really is giving us not really any indication of how or what the college should be doing to improve on those things. All of the writings about Suny Erie Excels were basically just a data dump without any evaluation on what the college was doing or was not doing to meet the goals that we had set for ourselves. That structure, that complexity, or that kind of like innocuous, not linked to Suny Erie structure made it very difficult for the college community to engage with Suny Erie Excels. What happened as a result is, I wrote on here, pockets of personal projects. I don't mean personal as in individuals, I mean each unit started to kind of do a defend their own turf type of, I'm going to do this my way because the college isn't helping me sort of structure across campus. So we have a ton of really great efforts going on around campus, but none of them are done in a cohesive nature to help propel us as a team towards the goal that the college has. So where do we go from here? We need to focus. We really, really need to focus, and we need to focus back on our mission statement. So we have 1 year to do our strategic plan. Mission statement seems to serve the college well if we actually live to it. It talks about the economic vitality of the region. It talks about our students. It talks about what our definition of success for those students will be long-term when we combine it with the vision statement. So some next steps is we're going to work collaboratively with the college community to build student-centered core values. We have been looking at core values from, I guess I'll just give you a definition in case you didn't know what core values mean, right? We really need to have these kind of worthwhile qualities that we all collectively are working towards that are focused and centered on that mission of serving our students and our community. So we've been looking at some examples. These are from Suny Central, and you can see students are front and center. We look at the college that we all emulate for some reason in Suny, Monroe Community College, and they also are all student-centered. And then I pulled from Dr. Balkin's previous institution, Ivy Tech, because he's familiar with it. They also are very student-centered. So we need to take a look and a pause to see how we can create student-centered core values for the college. And so when we look at these, we need to really work through shared governance to redefine these. In the past, this was something that was sort of just done at the higher level of the college and tried to be forced down through the lower ranks, where in reality, we should be working as a cohesive team to build these for the whole college. So when we look back at that mission statement, focused on the qualities that we're trying to promote for the student in terms of our education, we can then look at those strategic goals. So working through a strategic plan with simplified goals that are focused on student learning, that really start to talk simply about the actions the college has to take to live up to our mission statement. And this was a listing of some of these immediate goals that we're going to be working on. So I think Chairwoman Wilson had asked for Dr. Balkin's kind of goals if we took this 1-year pause on the strategic plan. So these are a list of those. I don't know if you want to speak to them, Dr. Balkin.
So again, I think these are in keeping with the, statements that Kathy has shared, and frankly, the top 2 goals that are listed there, the immediate ones, are obviously well underway. We're fully engaged there. The real challenge I think we have is, again, making this an inclusive strategic plan. And that's how we're going to have more of our employees take full ownership as they're trying to figure out how to apply anything and everything they do to ensuring student success. And it's a mind shift, it's a culture shift, but it's a critical one that I think is going to be revolutionary for our region. We have amazing opportunities. We've been working with a lot of different industry partners who are interested in engaging with us, but across the board, in order for us to be successful, we have to make sure, as we're engaging in new opportunities, that we've got the right focus. And as we go through this list of my goals that are continual goals, again, you'll see even the bottom one, cultivate highly collaborative relationships with local community organizations. At the end of the day, we can't do this unilaterally. Everything that we're going to have to do moving forward has to be highly collaborative. And if you look around, I think just about every college in the United States is now trying to define greater collaborations. I'd like to say it was my idea, and they just jumping ahead. But quite frankly, it's the future. And I think despite all the challenges we've had, we're addressing them real time. One of the greatest ones that we're going to have to address quickly is the culture and refocusing us on student success. We've got a lot of fantastic faculty. We've got tremendous staff. We've got everything we need. But what we need to do, first and foremost, is ensure that everyone is looking at their jobs through the lens of improving the college and the service to the students so that they can be successful. So, sounds easy, and frankly, I don't know if we have to make placards to put on everybody's computers, but we really got to drive home the fact that we're here for the students first and foremost, and anything that we're doing, we have to ask the question, to what benefit to the students?
Thank you. So our infusing Dr. Balkin's continual goals in our strategic plan will be the task for the next year. And we have, we have a team of folks that are working on our middle states response. And we started looking through pulling all of this evidence of other best practices when it comes to strategic plans and core values. We're pulling all of this documentation together and starting to look at what possible language we could adapt to be shared at our college, what do we call that, first day of the semester, convocation. We're going to have an activity for all of the faculty and staff to work on, and all of this kind of rethinking the way in which we've written these new goals, the way in which there's simplified language is completely and entirely directed towards the mission statement is the goal. Our targets for those new metrics that we're thinking about in the future, they have to be justifiable. We have to know what is minimally acceptable. And the moment we reach some sort of minimal threshold, we have to adjust, right? We have to evaluate and adjust whether or not we're doing the work that we claim that we're doing. Again, all back to middle states warning on the college. It all has to go back to that continual improvement and assessment. It's kind of a problem that we see throughout. When we look at, this is just one example, we started looking at a potential goal under student success, improving the percentage of students who earn successful grades in each course. The thought process through that discussion started to talk about how do we increase those successful grades while maintaining a defensible rigor for middle states. So we started looking at the back end of this, like what would it mean to a student to be able to achieve better grades? What would the student need to have in place? And so underneath that first highlighted on the left, we have 3 little ideas that came from that discussion. Better knowledge of our services and opportunities, making sure that we're cohorting our students. The programs that have strong cohorts and a path through programs have better completion than the programs that do not. Predictable scheduling, something that would allow us to have students, have a 2-year plan, a schedule for 2 solid years, so they know that they can commit to this and it's not going to upend their life each semester. Just some examples of those. In our next steps, so this presentation was given originally at the July 12th SBA meeting, and we have plans for opening day in fall where we're going to do student-centered core value presentation. We have Stephen Tucker from Northland is going to come that day and give a presentation about his strategic plan for Northlands and how successful that project has been and how strong that partnership we have with them are. And then we're going to break out into groups discussion on student-centered core values, bringing in those examples from earlier and a few others that we've been collecting. During that fall semester, the team that is working with us are going to go break out into classrooms and work with students to get student feedback on core values, what they think it means to Suny Erie, what Suny Erie means to them and what it would be, in the future, what they think it should mean. And then we'll go through our normal process of College Senate approvals of those core values and then bring them here to the Board of Trustees. And we're going to kind of wash, rinse, and repeat for opening day in spring, this time with strategic planning goals. Spring gives us a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Before we just finish this, can you go back a minute? I'm just trying to align what you're discussing with the guided pathways conversations and presentations that we have been having. How does this work with guided pathways? Because a lot of the topics that you're discussing are very similar to the presentations that we received regarding guided pathways.
So guided pathways should be infused throughout. It is something that in the past I don't think the college has fully adopted, but you can see in these kind of discussions that we had as an example for the collaborative work that we want to do with the team moving forward, we've started to talk about ways in which guided pathways model that cohorting of students, a predictable 2-year schedule. Those are elements of guided pathways that we want to weave throughout. So guided pathways doesn't necessarily become an add-on, it becomes infused within this mission and and in the strategic plan.
Okay, I understand. I just wanted to make sure that this wasn't an aside from guided pathways, that the principles of guided pathways were working within this. Okay.
Yeah, best practices infuse, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the spring semester, those student-centered strategic planning goals, we'll do the presentation at opening day for spring semester. We have an extra day in spring semester where we have kind of a work day that all faculty and staff come together, so it gives us a little bit more time to work through revisions of those. So spring semester for strategic planning goals was really a great time because we'll be able to go to students and come back with faculty and staff and do another edit before we get them approved by Senate and sent to the board for our strategic planning. And that's the gist of it all. Any questions?
if I could just make one more comment. As we've talked about the importance of SUNY Erie remaining relevant and providing value, it's not just to our students, it's to the community. And the community is made up of all of our business partners, all the companies that are looking to provide an opportunity for their employees to upskill. And everything that Kathy is talking about it's almost like a client-focused approach. And what I think we lost track of is that we have two primary clients: our students and the people who hire them. And ultimately, it can also include obviously people who are transferring. We want to make sure that our students who transfer from our 2-year programs to the 4-year programs are wildly successful. And I think most of you are aware that most community college students who do complete an associate's degree and transfer have a higher retention rate than those who just start at a 4-year school. So I think we have demonstrated that we do a good job on that front. Our students who do succeed and complete their associate's degree, move on to a 4-year college, do complete their bachelor's degree at a higher level, higher percentage than those that don't start at a community college. But all that to say, this theme is relatively easy once you get it. And what we have to do is just ensure that our staff and faculty have the epiphany for themselves for the fact that we're really a customer service organization that has to figure out how best to provide the best service, because we're competing with 20 other colleges in the region. So all that to say, this is going to be a common theme, and ideally what I'm hoping to do is to constantly be highlighting how we're executing against the strategic plan once it's well in place. So this will be hopefully a module that we'll talk about in future board meetings, and we can constantly revisit how we're doing against our strategic plan in the various areas. Thanks again, Kathy.
Yes.
Also, Chairwoman, I apologize, but Erickson Naylands, our Vice President of Management Services, of Enrollment Services, has to leave early, and I was wondering if you'd mind if we amended the agenda a little bit and had him present the status of our enrollment currently.
No, that's perfect. Just because I cannot see the full table, did our student trustee arrive yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So,
So
you know what?
after Eric's presentation, we can do the votes or whatever you think is required.
We can call the meeting to order officially. Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Great, good morning, everyone. Thank you for that opportunity to change the schedule a bit. With regards to the enrollment updates, I'm going to start with spring first. Some noteworthy updates there. One of the things this office feels is critical for us to be able to move forward, knowing in real time our enrollment status. Great news is that our unofficial, what we call real-time enrollment data is very close in accuracy to our official SUNY Sears report that Kathy and the IRAP office is presenting and sharing. We were within 1% margin of error between our unofficial real-time numbers, about 0.5% for head count, and even less than that, about 0.1% for FTEs. Why that's critical is then as we move forward, looking at then our enrollment through that same data set, I feel quite confident the numbers are quite accurate and gives us a really important ability to understand what our future projections look like and where we are at this point in time. We did end spring down about 1.4% compared to last year in terms of headcount and about 3% in terms of FTEs. Moving to summer, we did see more of a drop and decline there, more so for I would say summer 1 than we did for summer 2. As you may remember from the previous report, we were down more than 10% in terms of headcount and more than 15% for FTEs. We ended, or what appears to be then for summer at this point in time, but again, unofficial numbers, is looking at then about 10% down for headcount and then about 14% for FTE. While we notice that that is significant, I likely then believe that that was attributed to primarily our summer 1 enrollment, which may then be affected by when we release the schedule for that. So one of the things that I recommend from this office is data collection, is that then moving forward into next year, that we post that calendar as soon as possible to be able then to advertise our great offerings that we have for this summer. Fall is really quite critical, and we certainly recognize how important that is for the operations of the institution. At this point in time, we are seeing enrollment gains compared to last year and even 2 years prior. This office is cautiously optimistic that that will then continue. We saw a similar trend with enrollment in June. We are likely going to see a very similar enrollment trend for July, where compared to last year at this point in time, we're up about 13% in terms of FTEs. Compared to 2 years ago, we're up a little over 7% compared to FTEs. Now, those are what we consider to be the post or current pandemic times. Relative to pre-pandemic, though, it is important to note we are still then relatively down in terms of those numbers, using fall 2019 as our most recent point in time. That seems to fluctuate between about 2 to 4% down at this point in time compared to where we were in fall 2019. There is some very limited unofficial numbers that are coming from other community colleges. And so while we recognize that this is great for our institution, and I really attribute that to the collaborative efforts of the faculty, staff, administration, working together as one college. Anecdotally, I was here at our first chair registration date, and it was exciting to see how many students were here. Seats were filled. There were many individuals waiting, for an advisor. I was able to talk with them, and this was across all 3 campuses. And so it was really I think, rejuvenating event, and we look forward to our next events happening here in August. When we do look at other community colleges within Suny, we are seeing that across all of the community colleges, there is a decline that other community colleges are seeing. Again, I say that with a very restricted number of data points that are coming from other community colleges, but I say that because while we are seeing gains at this point in time, we can't let up either. We have to work together collaboratively, look at our community partnerships, continue to promote those. The Office of the Provost is doing a really great job of promoting things like with West Her, our new AMP program that's happening there. We're continuing to go out into the community, New Hope Education Center, Buffalo City Mission. We're constantly looking at these opportunities because I don't think we can do it alone, and that's not the way that we can continue to have operated. As Dr. Balkin said, and as Kathy said with our strategic plan, we have to recognize that we have these opportunities within the community to help identify the valuable courses and programs that we have here. So I think the more that we can continue to do that, we'll see that momentum then continue.
Also, just to add, just wanted to make sure everyone is also aware that we hired a part-time Vice President of Marketing and Communications, Mike Barone, who started with us on Tuesday. He's part-time because he's the owner of Straightforward Marketing. And obviously, we're going to be leveraging him much more fully over time here. But having met with him several times now, I'm optimistic that we're effectively unleashing our marketing organization to have a much more significant presence and impact in the community. So, I think you'll be seeing a lot more visibility of ECC moving forward, which I'm confident will also help our enrollment numbers.
Erickson and David, have you had any information, either anecdotal or otherwise, about the reaction to the news of what's been going on at the college with our financial issues, with the layoffs that we've had? Do you get a sense that that's filtering in and hurting us on the enrollment side? I would imagine the answer is it may, but I don't know if we've been able to quantify that at all, or if either of you would suggest an approach going forward that would reduce that risk.
So, anecdotally, I'll tell you, I've heard people express concern, and it was expressed at the legislature about what we're doing at the South Campus, for example. And just so everyone's aware, when we talk about the most recent resource actions, especially over the Faculty Federation and the AAECC, we ended up ultimately removing about 53 people through a layoff. 11 from South, 21 from North, and 21 from City. So, this concern about South, what we're really focused on doing is the right thing for the college across the board. And I think we have to continuously highlight the fact that South Campus is not closing. It may be redefined, it may be reconfigured. We may move ultimately. We have a lot of opportunities to collaborate with people in the South Towns region, but a lot of the activities that we're doing are primarily focused on getting to a one college environment. And again, I think there's a culture that people think a community college should be, 3 minutes away from them. I'll tell you, whether you jump in the car and you drive 10 minutes or you drive 20 minutes to college, that's something that we as a staff and faculty have to be able to convey, that we're providing value and it's well worth your time. If you look at the effectiveness that we have and the success that our students have and the impact that they're having in the community, without a doubt, the college is going to contract and expand depending on local population sets, but we're having a significant impact, and it's going to grow as we better refine our communications and our strategy moving forward. So, again, I think we have to work with the legislatures, with everyone, to kind of recognize that in the ideal world, we'd have a campus next to every McDonald's throughout the United States. It's not financially viable. And so what we have to do is leverage assets that are in the community, and you're going to see more announcements in the coming weeks about how we're going to do that. So watch this space, but again, I think what we're doing is going to be revolutionary for Western New York and also for the community college environment.
Yeah, and I recognize the gravity and the significance of those postings. Looking at it through a data perspective, which I try to focus on to complement what others here in this office are doing, we are still seeing an increase in our total number of applications and inquiries compared to last year. And we are seeing a pretty significant gain in terms of our total admitted students relative to last year as well. So I think even in the face of those challenges, we're still seeing improvements in the beginning stages of the enrollment funnel, that I'm hoping that as we build these partnerships, and as what Kathy highlighted with the strategic plan, we move forward with that momentum on top of the current practices at play. And I think then the future is promising at this point.
So additionally, one thing I just wanted to tie in support of what Eric just shared is enrollment is one thing, but probably what's more important, I think Len Lenahan and you brought up, is the retention. If we could improve our retention percentage by 10 points, we wouldn't be having any troubles. I mean, what we have to do is figure out how to rethink our commitment to student success. And again, it's going to be relationship building. It's going to be trying to figure out how to get more of our staff and faculty closely engaged with our students so that they really understand all the services, as Kathy highlighted, that are available to them to ensure their success. Between the marketing push and the hiring of a marketing executive who understands how to do this, who has extensive experience doing this, I'm confident that we'll be able to improve all of our numbers, in the relatively near future.
Thank you, Erickson. Dr. Vulcan, I was just waiting patiently to say that as far as the importance of retention to address those attrition numbers that we saw in the previous report from Kathy. Enrollment absolutely is important, and we definitely want to see those numbers coming up. And just to echo Dr. Vulcan, I think that the marketing efforts will play a huge part in that, as well as all of the efforts that each faculty member and staff member does to promote SUNY Erie. But it is what happens when they get here is critical. How are we retaining our most prized possession, which are our students, is going to be so crucial. And I look forward to what I'm loving about all of this conversation is that it's all playing in to the strategic planning process and building up to shape a future for SUNY Erie, a holistic future for SUNY Erie, with a student-centered approach. And so thank you for that presentation.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now I'd like to call the roll. Melody Baker, Leonard Lenahan,
Here.
Amanda Lowe,
Here.
Candace Morrison, Carrie Phillips,
Here.
Jeffrey Stone,
Here.
Davies Wilson is here, and Marcel Sordes Pinheiro.
Here.
The SUNY Erie Board of Trustees meeting Thursday, July 28, 2022 has been officially called to order at 9:41, and we did receive two presentations, one on strategic planning in middle states as well as enrollment data, so thank you. Before us today, we have a consent agenda. We have the Board of Trustees minutes of June 20th, 2022, special meeting minutes from July 5th, and also special meeting minutes from July 15th. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 3?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items 1 through 3 are approved. For board items received outside of committee committee meetings, I have 4 items. And so I would like for Dr. Sagai to please speak to items 1 through 4.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
And I too echo everyone's comment regarding our future of the college. One, really focusing on the past to understand how we got here. And then secondly, to really address what are we doing about that to address going forward. What does that look like, right? And involving the institution. And I think the community, and I've been talking to different people, to Trustee Stone's comment about where we are as a college. I think the community is supporting of us being successful because they see us a key in the community to serve all of our students. So I think we are getting support in such a way that they recognize some of the challenges that we're having internally, but also confident in the college will move the community and us in the right direction. So with that being said, I also feel very strongly, as you know, Chairwoman and Board, that I would like to bring the team that really are moving the college, and that is faculty and staff. So with that being said, I want to bring in Amy Yoder, our Dean of Students, to talk about our first item.
Good morning, thank you so much. I'm not sure which one was on the agenda and which one wasn't.
The American Sign Language interpreter.
Perfect. Okay, we'll start with that one. Good morning, everyone. This is services that we provide to not only our students, but any faculty or staff that require American Sign Language interpreters. This is a requirement that we need to fulfill. Previously in the past, we have used deaf access services, but through the RFP process and also through recommendations, Bridges Services was awarded the bid. So this is bringing that through to you all. To approve this, we'll need to also go to the legislator.
And with that, Chairwoman, we did not include the resolution, but we do have it for us to put part of the agenda item.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Are there any questions? Can I ask, why does this have to go to the legislator?
Because of the amount of it. Given that we're not sure how many students need it, it could be up to $50,000.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions? When we, for the sake of time, I'm going to ask that the motion to approve all 4 items at once, not individually, unless anyone objects to that. So I'll ask for questions after each report, and then, or questions and discussion after each report, and then at the end, we'll call a motion. Thank you, Amy.
And then the
So
second,
next up, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, Chairwoman. The second one is also under Amy, emotional health.
I'm really excited about this one.
We are too, Amy.
Yes, I'm thrilled, and actually the timing is perfect given the conversations that we are having about student-centeredness and retention. We are so fortunate to receive funding from Suny to support the emotional well-being of our students, and this is a very large step in an excellent direction. The Oasis app that we also put out for bid is a way for us to engage our students on their emotional well-being and provide support and guidance to them. This app is incredible. We will have access to data analytics of what students are interested in. It gives mindfulness activities, anxiety reduction activities, but also allows us to push out information about services that we have available here on campus. This is a great opportunity for us to engage our students and really get the pulse of how things are going throughout the year. This will be great to be able to introduce for this fall semester. This is a 3-year contract, which comes at the cost, which includes the implementation of the app of $79,000, again being paid completely through the Suny grant.
So Amy, one question I have is, how easy will it be to assess the data of usage for this app?
They have a beautiful dashboard, which I love dashboards. So this is great. We'll be able to see usage, not only just usage, but what students are actually interested in. Are they going for mindfulness activities? Are they looking for stress reduction? And again, we have that point of contact where they're able to connect to us directly through the app, which will great data and a wealth of information up for us to plan future programming.
So we'll be able to see unique users as well as repeat users?
Correct, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Just a question. Amy, is this sort of a clearinghouse activity where people are sent to more personal, like individual people to get counseling, whatever, or is it strictly an online service?
It's an online service, so they do offer referral services to counseling, but generally what they'll do is give you information local to the area. So using GPS tracking, give them information on various counseling services that are available in the Western New York area.
So if somebody's having just a real bad period, they can be sent to somebody to talk to.
Absolutely, and this is also supplemental to the current MOU that we have with OLV Services too. And you will be hearing more from me because it was a fairly large grant. So we will be offering and adding more services, including free telecounseling here on campuses.
And I think the other thing to this is that it also speaks to the students who are strictly online or doing hybrid in terms of getting their coursework or not coming to the campus on a regular basis. This will allow for that as well.
This is an opportunity for us to meet our students where they're at. They're on their phones. So this is a great way to engage with them.
So
How
Amy,
do we roll this out and market it to the students?
Absolutely, great question. So we will absolutely be utilizing orientation, and this will be a great way to connect to them. And to be honest with you, internal marketing. We want our faculty and staff aware of this. I want the faculty to be able to have this information in their toolkit to push out to students the first week of classes as well. Oasis also offers marketing with signage and everything else, which will be up on campus as soon as students come back.
And the other thing, just to add, I know Dr. Balkan mentioned our new marketing person that's going to help us. One of the things that we're doing, in addition to enrollment meeting with that individual, we're also going to meet on the other side of the house to talk about how do we do the internal marketing as such as this and other services that we have, and be very intentional about internal marketing so that we are serving our continuing students a lot better in terms of how we communicate with them.
Amy, you had mentioned that there's free teleservices for counseling. For services where people are, or the system is directing people to outside counselors, what support mechanisms are in place for those opportunities?
Sure, we have a standing MOU with OLV Services that does offer counseling to students. We did utilize them in May when we did bring the counselors on campus. And twofold, they have services available for students that do have insurance, and then they also have services available for students that do not have insurance. So we're trying to build up that network for students so that no student is lost. Anybody who needs services, we have on-site counseling when we get the telecounseling up and running in all 3 of our campuses. We have the Oasis app as well as OLV services too.
Amy, can you speak a little bit to our crisis services partnership as well?
Absolutely. So we have a partnership with Crisis Services, which is our campus advocate that is here at North Campus every single Tuesday and available 24/7 to any students experiencing domestic or sexual violence. We have had them with us for about the last 6 years, so this is also an opportunity for any students that need help and support. We have someone here. Also, to add to that too, Crisis Services offers our faculty and staff mandatory reporter training so that staff are very much aware of what to do with a student in that situation, because as you know, we are all mandatory reporters. We've had 3 phases of faculty and staff go through that training, and we'll be kicking off again this fall with another group.
Amy, as you described the Oasis app and the fact that they'll refer you to the counseling, they're first and foremost referring them to ones that are already in our network, or how does that work?
They're going to refer the student to us first.
Okay.
Students that say, we need help with services. So we have that connection with them, and then they also have the other component of find me a provider in the area. So it's twofold. If they need the support of the college, we're being notified through the app that we can do outreach to the student, as well as if a student wants to connect on their own and they don't want to have these private conversations with us, they can connect directly with the provider in the area.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Amy. And the third, thank you, Amy. It's again another partnership that we're very excited about to increase our criminal justice program. And I believe I got Kevin Barnes to speak to that a little bit. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for coming.
Okay, I was approached approximately 8 months ago from the Erie County Probation Department in establishing a partnership and an agreement for classroom space and also a partnership with the criminal justice program. They were mandated to increase their hours of instruction for their basic academy here locally to about 280 hours. And part of that includes 40 hours of defensive tactics training. They requested classroom space, but also training space to accommodate defensive tactics. So in conjunction with my dean, Juan Martinez, we put together a MOU through the county attorneys outlining that. And with that agreement, the participants in that academy would receive credit for one criminal justice class, specifically CR 170, which is criminal investigation, which closely aligns 55 hours of contact hours of the curriculum, the same material that we teach on the academic side. So the MOU was drafted, and all parties involved had a time to take a look at it, and we're at the point of asking for signatures.
And again, this will give us an opportunity for those students to matriculate into our CJIT program, so we're excited about it.
Correct. There's an opportunity, at least at the beginning of the academy, where I personally go in and address the academy people and invite them to reach out to me in terms of providing any types of transcripts or reverse transfers. We have a similar program established with the Erie County Sheriff's Department where I was able to look at other institutions, transfer credits, and actually award degrees, criminal justice degrees, based on credits already obtained or through the academy setting.
Excellent. Any questions for Kevin?
Not a question, but I have a comment. When it says probation officer, it makes me think one of the common probation conditions that's imposed on people is that they have a job or be in school somewhere. So I'm wondering, while we have probation officers training in the campus, if there's not a way that we can encourage or educate them on how to get their probationees enrolled, because it is required for most people.
Okay, that's interesting. That was something that we could definitely explore. In conjunction on the academic side, working cooperatively with the supervisor of the probation department, we could definitely have that conversation. That's an opportunity. That's a great idea.
And I think it would be important to make sure that they can maybe explain financial aid opportunities. Would be very helpful, I think.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think the
Thank you.
fourth one is Bill.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time, Adia?
I believe the fourth item is under, Bill, are you talking to that one?
That's the contract.
So, this is the CSEA Executive Summary Resolution.
I thought, Dave, you were gonna pull
And I
that.
thought- Yeah, I thought we were.
Oh, yeah.
This is gonna
Yeah,
be
I'm sorry.
from the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's being pulled from the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, so, the items that we are going to be voting on today are items 1, 2, and 3. The CSEA Executive Summary and Resolution is going to be pulled from the agenda. So, may I have a motion to approve items received outside of committee meetings, items 1 through 3?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items are approved. We have items from the Curriculum, Student Success, and Diversity Committee meeting. Items 1 through 3, agreement of BPS Northland Workforce Training Center, agreement of Western New York Workforce Training Center sublease, and agreement of Buffalo Futures Hub, formerly Youth Employment Coalition program. Yes. Dr. Sadai?
Absolutely. So the first one with the Northland Workforce, this is a new memorandum of understanding in collaboration with Buffalo Public School, Northland, and Suny Erie. And the intention here is really to capture high school students within the Buffalo district who are in their sort of last year, who need about 18 credits or so to graduate. And these students typically are not full-time students at the high school. And so this project came by way of, there is a program called Pathway Program within the district. And so these students have an opportunity to continue to take more courses. So we found this was to be a great way to engage those students early into a degree program at the college. So similar to advanced studies, these students would take two, so the choice program is mechatronic, and you'll see after I talk about this one, how our mechatronic certificate has been very successful. So we decided to go with our mechatronic program for these students. They would take 2 mechatronic intro courses at the same time as they are taking their high school courses to graduate from high school, and then as they are doing that, to take these 2 classes. The way this is also working, which lines up really nicely with our mechatronic program, their format of delivery of the courses are virtual. Those students are doing this independently, and they're doing it in the 7.5 module, the high school curriculum work. And so our mechatronic coursework is being offered that way, so that the students are taking the first MT100, and then they would, after they finish with that course, they would take the second course, 104. And then once they finish with that process, with those courses, graduate from high school, and then we will matriculate them into the mechatronic program. The site will be at Northland, so that they really do have hands-on experience. They will be bused from the high school. We are targeting about 20 students from that. They're going through a whole process in terms of making sure there's a commitment, and those students are set to be successful. Buffalo Public School is dedicating a coach to that, a career coach is what they call them, and then obviously we'll dedicate our staff and our faculty to this program, and Northland is doing the same thing. We are getting a grant funded to support our instructional costs for those two courses. So between Northland and the district, as well as Suny area, we're helping with the foundation. We will work through a grant so that way we get support financially for the instruction part of the program. So we're excited about this. There's many opportunities to do this. This is a pilot as a way to start. So there's a full commitment from the district. I'm very excited to work with them, as well as Northland. So very excited, and certainly we're excited about the opportunity to continue to participate with the district.
I think this is an amazing pipeline approach, and being able to capture a lot of students, training them straight out of high school, even some while in high school, to get livable wage jobs or beyond livable wage jobs in some instances. They spoke about the 19-year-old who's making like $60,000 a year. That is just incredible. So thank you.
Absolutely. Any questions on that one? Okay. Then we go to our Northland lease agreement. This is our annual lease agreement that we are renewing. Not much change in terms of the lease itself. Really, the piece I want to highlight, though, and it is in the summary, currently between 2018 and 2022, 2,095 students at Northland. And I think that's exciting to where we start and some of the challenges that we had at the initial state. And it's still growing. We are, as you know, we did add our mechanical program. It's a 2-year degree at Northland. And so we had our first group of students go through that. We started with 20. I know they're not indicated in here. We started with 20, and 17 are continuing with us. And we're starting a new cohort for our mechanical program in the fall as well. And our target number is 20, and we're doing really well in terms of getting those students to register. I think what I would like to highlight, our graduation rate at Northland with our mechatronics, 62%. So to a lot of the points that Kathy was indicating earlier, we could do this and we could do it really well, right? Certainly 62 is still an opportunity for us to improve, but we do have a model if we really think through and really build a model that works, that is student-centered, but also making sure that our faculty and our staff and our partners are in line with what we need to do in our enrollment and retention process work. So we do have it. As you can also see, we do have partners in the company, right? Tesla and Modes are hiring our students. They can't get enough of them, so we're very excited that we are also serving the Western New York need in terms of job placement. Mind you, those students are making really very, very well salary, right? And so we're very excited about the income. And then the other last thing that I'm personally passionate about, these students are also continuing their education. They're not stopping, they're working, right? They got their certificate, but they're also matriculating in the mechanical program. So it's a very nice way for them to continue. And there are some who also went to a four-year college. So it's exciting to see that these students are not stopping at that point either, that they're continuing. So that's our renewal lease for Northland.
Nadia, does the base rent of 50% of the net tuition receipts, that's a continuing term?
Yes.
We had that in the old lease and the new.
Yes. I know that there is, future conversation with Dr. Balkin and Mr. Tucker about what do we need to do that different with all the things that are changing. But for now, we thought that was the best way to go.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Sagai, with all of your work at Northland, from just reimagining the possibilities that we had there, and then growing, meeting and exceeding goals year after year. I think this has just grown into a wonderful model that can be replicated throughout many of our programs.
Absolutely. And I gotta say, we have a team of people at Northland that continue to make sure that we're on a good track. Peter Gallo, he couldn't be here with us because he got sick, but he was eager to present to the board of all the exciting things that they're doing there. So it's really our team, and I got to tell you, led by our faculty to make sure that this program is successful. So very thrilled to work with our team to make sure that this grows. So.
Perhaps in the future we can have a presentation from Northland and from your crew over there, just to talk about where you are and next steps and things like that. I know, well, it was this Stephen Tucker, but we had a presentation in former years where they came and talked about, you know, the program. So perhaps we can do that again.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why we reached out to Mr. Tucker to be one of our guest speaker for our opening in service. We thought this was a very success story, not only for us, but certainly for Northland and for our students to be successful, particularly in the community that Northland is located.
Absolutely. Thank you for your leadership.
Absolutely. And then the next item, I think this sort of kind of goes together. So it's our YEC opportunity and partnership. This is our commitment to that initiative, to be able to have them located in our location downtown at our city campus. And so this is really to support, again, this speaks to everything that we're doing with the district and other community initiative, is really to get the youth involved, and so they can see a path in terms of education opportunity, career opportunity, and success opportunity within our community, particularly that age 16 to 24. How do we get them engaged? And so certainly we are excited to have this at our building and support this initiative. Again, this will be a pipeline for every aspect of the college, so we're excited to have this opportunity.
Thank you.
Nadia, I had a question about that. I'm recalling the very excellent presentation we had about 3 or 4 or 5 months ago on the Youth Employment Coalition, right? And how Suny was to be the hub of it at City Campus. And after that was followed by some disappointment. Something changed. Could you compare and contrast the new model here to what was going to happen and what transpired that it didn't happen under the first model?
Absolutely.
Because I know a lot of us were disappointed after hearing that presentation that it didn't move forward in that mode.
Absolutely, and I know Patrina and I believe Chairwoman may also speak to that, but to my understanding, I think it's a little bit different in that we're not the main provider in terms of all aspects of this program. It's my understanding we are going to house the program, and we are going to have a relationship with them, but we're not sort of running the program. So they are taking the initiative and having individuals who they are hiring, but they will be housed at our campus, and we will be there to support them. Our Say Yes, our Man of Merit, we have all the opportunity programs too that could align with some of the things that they are trying to do. So we are on a committee still, it's my understanding. We will continue that. I will take over where Patrina was leading that effort, so I will be representing the college and supporting, making sure that our facility and our services that we have at the college, that we have an open policy to help to make sure that this program is successful.
Yeah, and to be clear, part of the reason why we morphed our definition was tied to the fact that we were having resource actions, and unfortunately the collective bargaining agreement terms for the AAECC that would have housed the director at ECC would have required that that person be removed first, kind of a last in, first out. So it just didn't make sense in our current environment as we were trying to figure out how best to streamline, become more efficient, to bring someone in, invest the time and energy in hiring the right director, only to find out that we wouldn't be able to keep that person because of the bumping strategy associated with a layoff. I will tell you that I've already started discussions with the new president of the AAECC to talk about how we might better address this, especially recognizing soft money shouldn't be really handled in the same way as permanent jobs, that are full-time jobs at ECC. So, it's going to be kind of a watch this space, but I'm cautiously optimistic that moving forward, we'll be able to address it so we don't have these issues.
Yeah, I'm glad you talked about that. That refreshes my own recollection from a few months ago. I didn't have that in mind as I raised the question, other than a general recollection of that we had an issue. So that was not to stage that. But could either of you talk about, just in terms of what we saw as the 100% of benefits we were going to recognize from this originally? To what degree are we at 80% of value?
So candidly,
90, 70?
I think the value is still going to be 85% plus, primarily because we're co-located at the Oak Street location with our other programs.
So they're with us
So
physically.
they're with us physically, and we have the opportunity. I mean, it's literally a door, connecting the two programs, like with moms and other programs. So we do have an opportunity to share all the resources that make us a viable solution, in partnership with them moving forward. So the primary benefit that we were going to be securing was the foundation effectively footing the full expense for a director and some staff to support it. But it being that director and staff are still going to be supporting the same mission, I really do believe it will have minimal impact in the short term.
So the key difference is that it's not really our people with their hands on the steering wheel, but we're still in the car.
Exactly.
Basically. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I've not heard of the Service Collaborative of Western New York. Do we have any sense of their reputation or their effectiveness?
I'm not sure.
Stellar.
No?
The Service Collaborative is one of the leading organizations in Western New York that reaches opportunity youth, and connect them to careers.
Oh, good. Okay.
So to be clear, though, the one advantage of the Service Collaborative approach is, again, should funding run out after 3 years and 1 day, we'd historically be in a position where we were obligated to support that person, even though the soft money went away. And historically, that's contributed to some of our challenges financially, in that we currently have well over $700,000 of program activity that is unsupported as a result of grants expiring. So this isn't a bad model, and to be a partner with them and have them co-located with us is a positive, at least until we remedy that collective bargaining agreement term.
Okay. And setting aside the effect for us, the positives, the benefits, the percentage of value, the inherent value of this program for the community and the people who benefit for it, let's stipulate to that, right?
Yeah.
That's just great. So I'm content.
Yeah. Additionally, I always like getting more people to our campuses, right? So I think that's one of the most critical aspects of this, because we also have the opportunity to give them tours and just kind of show them the breadth of services that are made available to them should they matriculate.
I'm glad this thing had enough momentum on its own and enough inherent value that our problems in terms of staffing it, our bumping rights, our collective bargaining agreement, didn't derail it completely.
Well, candidly, the Foundation of Buffalo and the Oshai Foundation have been terrific to work with, and they're phenomenal sponsors. And I think moving forward, I think our raising our hand and making sure that we didn't do a misstep was critical to maintain the relationship moving forward.
All right, I feel better about that. Thank you.
I think this is a very important program for community members, and SUNY Erie to be very intentional with the recruitment efforts of these students. And so much so that we should probably be tracking how many Service Collaborative students or the Buffalo Futures Hub students enroll in our program. They should not just be part of the enrollment numbers. And that will also speak to our ability for the after the 3 years is up, of our ability to play a larger role in this initiative.
One last comment before we vote on these is under fiscal implications for this last one. It just says SUNY will receive referrals of youth and help enrollment, additional referrals. And I was just left wondering, okay, what is the cost? When I look under fiscal implications, the first thing I would always want to see is, what is the cost to the college? Is there any? And if so, where's it coming from? So I would just urge, with all of these executive summaries, that fiscal implications paragraph be carefully thought through, and it should talk about cost, and I don't think this one does.
Yeah, so candidly, the cost here is the space that we had defined for it prior to changing our path.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, any
Physical
overhead.
space.
Yeah,
Physical
so it's
space.
literally a physical space.
Okay.
You know,
No out-of-pocket dollars.
no out-of-pocket dollars.
So I think though, in terms of enrollment and really working with Eric and team to really identify individuals who are going to really systematically work with the staff, right? So I think that's the piece that we got to do, you know, really well. We have something similar here, the One Stop Center as an example, where it serves the entire community, but they're located right here with us. So how do we systematically ensure that our admission and our staff is interacting meaningfully so that we are able to attract students into our program? So I think with this one, once I believe they're still in the process of hiring their director. I'm not sure they're done yet, but once we get that in place, is really working with them and meeting with them, making sure that there is that clean process that, you know, we can take a really advantage of, but not only advantage, but have it part of our plan.
I hope it's someone really dynamic. This is important.
Yes. We have someone in mind.
Okay.
Thank you
Absolutely.
very much. Are there any other questions or comments regarding items 1 through 3? Great. We also have, may I have a motion to approve the curriculum and success and diversity agenda items 1 through 3?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Items 1 through 3 are approved. There are items 1 through 5 on the agenda for board information. Is there anything, Dr. Sagai, that you would like to speak on within it?
Again, a lot of information is provided to the board, but again, it speaks to our first one, advisory council membership. If you look at that list, it really highlights to the extent that the college is involved with the community, particularly with the industry and the field, to expand our presence and our relationship. We did have, a couple months ago, we did have a breakfast for our advisory council members to appreciate what they have done with the college in terms of really dedicating their time to help us with our curriculum, with other student placement, all those things to make sure that particularly our curriculum is relevant to the field and the industry. So excited to continue to have new members and renewal members as listed there. Again, the second item in here is our advanced study articulation agreement. Again, that is also speaking to our relationship to K-12 and post-secondary to make sure that our curriculum and our programming, that we're very clear about giving students path. And it goes back, Chairwoman, to your question earlier about creating and using guided pathway to make sure that every student from the high school as well as from our college to a four-year, there is a path and there is expansion to that. Kenesha being one of the schools that we're expanding our articulation agreement with. So really growing our relationship in that area as well. Our third item is really, again, a lot of this, you see a theme. It's about collaboration. It's about link. It's the opportunity for our students to have internship, clinical experiences, you know, is critical, but also other opportunities in our other program to make sure that our students are having internship and apply learning to ensure that there's a theory part of what they do, but also the application. So we're very excited about continuing that and growing that to make sure that in every program there is a component where there is an internship or apply learning that is taking place so our students can see the value of the programs. The fourth one, I know Joe Strano, who on here, so I will, thank you for joining us, so I'll let you speak to that a little bit to the board. Joe, you're on mute.
I'm sorry, good morning.
Good morning.
We have approximately 16 consultants that we use for specific training modules here at the college, and they're on their $30 an hour individuals. Those specifics are like for police photography, accident investigation courses, defensive tactics. One of our main things that we have to teach here is BAC, radar, EVOC, which is our driving, and we use over at Highmark Stadium. So those individuals, there's approximately 16 of them that we use on a basis here for those specialized courses.
Thank you, Joe. And again, this also speaks to the expertise that we have, and I think it's key. And this is one of the things that, as we speak to our new marketing person that's going to be assisting us, to really highlight all of these things that we're doing as a college. I think it's important to put this out so that people know it's not just the academic experience, but it's also the industry, but also the individuals that are helping our college and the expertise that they have and that they bring to the college. So we'll be able to market this as well.
Right. If I could just add in one thing there. The reason that we have to use these individuals, anybody who teaches these specific disciplines has to be trained by Division of Criminal Justice Services in Albany, and they have to be certified by them. So we can't just use anybody to teach these specifics like crime scene evidence, things like that. So they have to be specialized in their field, and they have to be certified in their field to do those specific instructions.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and we will file these items for board information. Next up, we have the Budget and Audit Human Resources. Vice Chair Stone is the chair of that committee. I will like to add, I'll have to hop off just for about 15 minutes. And then I'll come back on and we can do any approvals necessary. Is that okay? I'm here, but I'll have to hop off.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Yep. The minutes were just mentioned as the last item on page 2 of our agenda. I guess that's just a trigger for me to say that I really do enjoy the separate committee meeting structure that we're having. I find it helpful to look at the very, very good minutes that have come from the other committees on which I'm not serving. Strategic planning, technology, marketing. Those are great minutes, and I would recommend to those of you who are not on the Budget and Audit and Human Resources Committee to take a look at our minutes. They're terrific, and we cover a lot of ground. And that's going on all over the Board of Trustees and the subcommittees, so I'm very comfortable with that and I'm very happy with that structure. And it's a way for all of us, as we get ready for these meetings, to say, okay, what is Carrie doing over there? What is Amanda doing? Candace. So I like that. We had good, solid meetings on June 16th. The minutes of that meeting are here in the packet. And then we met again on July 19th, not very long ago, and had another very robust meeting. And as you know, at each of the meetings, we are having a substantial and quite deep discussion about the overall problem that we're having with our ERP system, transition, Evolution, Banner, you all know the words, Workday problems, and we are talking about that because it ties so much to our financial situation. Again, the minutes are very good. I would certainly commend Scott again, as I always do, for the work that his group, and he in particular, are doing with David to assess this, put some resources in place to evaluate what we are doing there, and find a path forward. It's very difficult. And there's a lot of players involved, including people in the legislature who are commenting on this, the county executives taking an interest. We have this issue that we all have to work on wherever we're touching the elephant. So that's always in our agenda, it's always in our minutes. In terms of exactly the more technical aspects of what we did, the things that are here, there is a human resources agenda, so I suppose why don't we talk about that, David, the positions on that, which is page 81 of our materials, because that triggers a vote and then the rest is informational. And here, what we're talking about, again, page 81, it's the positions involved are the Vice President of Marketing and Communications, Vice President of Workforce Development with a special arrangement there, and Kathy's moving from interim to permanent on the Associate Vice Provost position.
Right. So with respect to the Vice President of Marketing and Communications, we had a great opportunity to tap into Mike Barone, who is very well known in the Western New York community. He's currently the founder and CEO of Straightforward Marketing. He's worked at Fredonia State College for 8 years previously, has 25 plus years of directly relevant experience in everything from PR, crisis management, web presence, social media. I mean, he's done it all, and he's actually currently a consultant for University of Buffalo and also Dutchess County. But all that to say, our strategy here is to bring Mike Barone in as an interim part-time vice president to oversee our marketing communications organizations while we post a full-time position. And that is being posted tomorrow, I guess. So again, the goal here is to ultimately have a full-time vice president of marketing communication who will be on the senior executive staff. We had an executive director of marketing and communication resign a couple weeks ago, and that executive director position will be backfilled by an AAECC member hiree that will be a director who will be hired by the full-time vice president of marketing and communication. So that's the strategy we have moving forward.
Okay, and why don't you cover all three, because at the committee level a couple of weeks ago we talked about this at length, all three of these initiatives, and reached a comfort level at the committee level. So this is to summarize for the board, and then I think I'll speak for the committee and say we supported all three of these. The next one is the workforce development.
Right. So the next one is the Vice President of Workforce Development. This will also be a senior executive staff position. And what we're looking to do is effectively amend the current Director of Advancement's role to include being the Vice President of Workforce Development, primarily recognizing the fact that the advancement lead is got to be terrifically visible in the community and engaged with all of our industry partners, industry players, such that they recognize one person as the primary focal point into SUNY Erie. Historically, we've had some challenges with different organizations, different divisions engaging companies without them understanding the intricacies of how to ensure that we're effectively supporting them. And what we need to do really is to better focus that and align it, and that's the primary purpose of this. We've had discussions with Mark Gallen, the president of the foundation, who fully supports this. He's reviewed it by his foundation board. They fully support this move. So what we're going to do is have Chris Musilowski serve in this as an interim role for 6 months to verify that it is going to be efficient and effective, and then assess whether or not that could be a permanent position moving forward.
Okay. And we talked a lot about that and dug down on whether, where the foundation was on this, how this compensation would work. It is extra money for Chris because he's taking on an additional role here. But I think the argument David made at the beginning about these two baskets of responsibilities being pretty congruent and helpful to the college if you've got one clear reference point for those dealing with us from the outside was pretty persuasive. And so at a fairly modest cost, and we talked a little bit too, just to be completely transparent about this. In the past, we've had intermixing between the foundation and the college for the newer trustees that, we've changed. We didn't particularly like how that worked. So we were a little bit cautious in terms of this. Those cautions were raised and I think effectively addressed, at least for now. So we'll take a look at that. But we've given the people, and I'll go ahead, Len, if you want to comment on that.
Dr. Vulcan, what happens to the people that we've got? By the way, I have no problem with this move at all. I guess I just want to know the people that are working in the area of workforce development now, either former directors or
so they'll report.
Titles, I can't keep track of them.
Yeah, they'll report to the senior executive staff member now.
Which will be Chris.
Yes.
Okay, so they'll report directly.
Yeah, and to be clear, our workforce development organization, for whatever reason, has basically dwindled over the last 4 or 5 years. Historically, it was quite a robust organization located over at our Oak Street, and they had a significant physical presence, which frankly is empty now. And part of our focus moving forward and key to our strategy is redefining and reestablishing a much more significant presence in this space. So to that end, you'll hear when we talk about where we are financially and the impact of the various resource actions. What we did try to do was take advantage of existing skill sets that could help bolster that initiative sooner rather than later.
We're in the layoff package of the last layoff package of 60. Were there any workforce development people in that package?
So no workforce development people, I believe, were removed from the college. However, some people who may have been impacted by bumping were reassigned.
Okay.
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 All right, and before we, to step back, the reason these 3 positions are in front of us is because we're talking about a senior executive staff change, addition, amendment, and that comes before the board for the benefit of the newer trustees. When we're not talking about senior executive staff, I think we're talking about more of an informational filing with us, right?
Yeah.
That we see it, even down to the lowest level of the college in terms of salary and whatnot. But that is really within the purview of the administration of the college. But senior executive staff, we talk about it here and we approve it, right? Just want to make sure we're all on the same page about that.
Yes.
Okay.
So all 3 will go to senior executive level?
Yes.
Okay.
And we see that, Len, when we look at page 81, it says proposed job group or step SES. Chris, you're here. Can you chime in, please? Come on up.
So, thank you very much. Dr. Balkin and I have been working on kind of putting this together from the foundation perspective for a while, working with the foundation board. And my conversation with Mark Allen, as Dr. Balkin has said, it's a really natural partnership because we are going out and we are making a lot of these connections in the community. We're meeting with a lot of these businesses. From a foundation side, it's will you do scholarships with us? Will you partner with us on some of our golf outings? And like all of those standard fundraising operations. And to a T, every business that you sit down with and talk to, they say, yeah, but we really need some workforce. We're looking, what can you do to help us from your student perspective? What programs do you have? And being those boots on the ground, already meeting with a lot of these individuals in the community, it's that natural transition to say, okay, let's start seeing what you're looking at and then take it back to the academic side and work with the academic side to say, okay, what programming do we have that we can utilize? What do we have that we can build and actually start moving that forward? So I think that this is a great natural partnership in this role of onboarding these businesses, finding ways to have them be involved with scholarship generation, with naming rights. We just promoted Jessica Notarius from my staff to a major gift officer. She's meeting right now for naming rights for one of our things as we speak. So we're trying to generate those types of revenues already, but then finding a way to say that same business that already has skin in the game with some of our programming, okay, how do we get scholarships? How do we do a more targeted workforce training program with you, as well as getting these additional funds that can be used for buying proper equipment for our departments, or honestly just general scholarship funds for students who might not be in a specific workforce training program. So,
additionally, one other thing that I wanted to make clear is historically with the foundation, the SUNY Erie Foundation being separate and distinct from the college, we haven't had a really good bridge between the foundation and the college. And to have one person who serves as that bridge, everything from ensuring that our vice president of marketing understands their needs, because quite candidly, the foundation needs to be supported by our marketing organization in order to best benefit us. But from that, all the way through to, engaging with the provost, with Dr. Sagai's team and all the faculty to ensure that we have a seamless engagement is critical. I'll tell you, my biggest concern is that we move too fast and we overcommit and underdeliver. I do not want to do that. What's critical for us is to get meaningful successes under our belt that people can point to and say, that's what I want. And frankly, I think we've got the right team in place. We've got Dr. Sagai, who has her finger on the pulse of everyone in the faculty organization that can effectively support these engagements. And I'm really excited about the prospects. The number of companies that are proposing significant engagements is impressive.
Yeah, workforce development is one of the biggest themes that you've outlined since you became president, and fundraising. We know about your background there. So when we talked about it at committee, I think it boiled down to if Dr. Balkin, Chris, and Mark Gollin and the foundation board, everyone sees virtue in this, we feel pretty good about experimenting with this. And the arguments strike me as correct. So want to wish you luck, assuming we vote positively for this. And I feel that's a step in the right direction. So I want to appreciate your efforts to sort of rethink things a little bit, not just fill the existing chairs, but if you need to redraw the lines, that's fine. The third one is, of course, Kathy's position. And that, thank you, Chris, moving from interim to, I guess, permanent vice provost. So, David, you want to talk about that? We all heard from Kathy earlier, and thank you for an excellent presentation. One of many we've heard from you.
Well, candidly, I think the presentation kind of speaks to Kathy's capabilities. She's data-driven. She's bringing a renewed focus on student support and providing student services that really has been lost over the last several years for some reason. And ultimately, it being that she is data-driven, she's working intimately with Scott Irmer and the entire IT services organization to help us work through some of the challenges we have associated with the enterprise resource planning tool. This is not a small responsibility. This is significant, which is why it's on the senior executive staff listing. Frankly, I don't think we could have found a better person, and I'm thankful every day that Kathy's there to support this, because the intricacies associated with everything from ensuring that our institutional research is good and we're in compliance is riding on her shoulders. She's done a phenomenal job positioning us with recovering from our middle states warning on assessment. And she is thorough in ensuring that she's vetting our actions by everyone, not just at the college, but throughout the Suny system, to ensure that she's doing everything possible. So, frankly, we got very lucky in having Kathy raise her hand. And, if I had known she had these abilities, she probably would have been made permanent vice provost immediately.
Well, one of the things we're all noting here is, you've been here since February or so, and you're assembling your team. You're retaining key people, Scott and others that, identifying Adium and making Adium the permanent provost, and then Kathy's position here, and others that we've talked about and voted on. And I appreciate the momentum that you're generating in terms of getting your team organized the way consistent with your vision for what you want to achieve here. So from the committee's point of view, we recommend to the board that all three of these be approved. Any further discussion?
Just a comment. So your cabinet actually, with the addition of more senior executive staff, the numbers are increasing. So you're going to have
So let me also be clear. When I came, I had one senior executive staff member who was management confidential, and that was the provost.
Right.
So, thankfully, we were able to hire Cynthia Buckley as our vice president of HR, to not have a marketing vice president on the senior executive staff, I think was probably a mistake historically.
Right.
But, a lot of what I'm trying to do is put back in place a senior executive staff structure that is going to be able to support us moving forward in an
Be
effective way.
responsive and be, yeah, I think.
I think we're seeing that. Other comments before we vote?
I just had a question about the second position, because the foundation's a separate entity. Did the county attorney's office have any issue with it?
No, and the way we're effectively structuring it is that position as an interim role will continue to report to the foundation, but what we'll do is provide a little bit of a monthly stipend to cover the additional responsibilities associated with the Erie Community College component.
And historically, Amanda, there has been money flowing from the college to the foundation to support some of their staff. And so this is in keeping with that.
Right.
Is that overall arrangement. Anything else? Okay. I don't know if Denise is on right now, but assuming she isn't and assuming she'd be okay with this, why don't we propose that we vote to accept the human resources agenda positions that were outlined here, as described on page 81 of our materials. A motion for that? Oh, no?
We need her for 6.
What's that?
There's not enough people.
Oh, not enough?
Until Denise comes, we don't have.
Oh, Denise she's actually away? Okay. All right. Let's just make a note. We have to vote on that?
Yeah.
Okay. As far as the informational pieces, my general recollection from a week or two ago was that this was more or less positive. Susan is not here today. She's, I believe, away on vacation and or had a conflict. So as far as the ASC quarterly report, it was good. I would say let's take a look at that very, very quickly, just to note that they saw a profit of $53,716 because they received $191,795 in IRS payments for the employer retention tax credit that they submitted for. Now you remember probably that the ASC was the beneficiary of 2 forgiven PPP loans, which is great, and that kept them afloat throughout the pandemic so far. And then this, though, was even, to me, what is that? Okay, the employer retention tax credit. I kind of lost track of that. And here it is, dropping to our bottom line to the tune of almost $200,000 in ASC. So my general reaction was, I'd lost track of that, but I'm glad it's there. So Susan reported on that. So, I mean, food service, we know from our prior reports that food service is slow, and the bookstore commissions actually have gone up, triggered a little bit by graduation. Childcare, we've closed the South Center, the South Childcare Center. That's been reported on by Susan, and some of that's regrettable. Food service is down to just sort of a market or vending opportunity at South. So not much is going on at South, but when we had it in full, there just wasn't much usage. So, it's an unfortunate situation. But Susan's report is here, and I would consider it generally positive, largely because of that tax item. Supplier report, facilities, rentals, waivers, the capital project list, nothing there was out of the ordinary in terms of what normally goes on each month and what gets reported to us. We had a certain degree of waivers, but consistent with past practice. Supplies, typical stuff that's obsolete being given out. Budget to actual, we always talk about that, and I guess David or Bill, between the two of you, we've heard about enrollment. I want to touch just a little bit. I think it's always useful to at least spend some time on budget to actual where we can. It's most meaningful, of course, as we close the fiscal year, because interim snapshots can be affected by timing issues and consistencies from year to year and so forth. But any general comments on the dashboard, Dave?
So, again, I think thankfully, we did have the higher education emergency relief funds that positioned us to end with some cash reserves. I think the total is about $6.5 million. Moving forward, I think you're well aware that the resource actions we're taking are intended to better position us to avoid what was originally a $9 million operating deficit. I will tell you that we have some paperwork that Cynthia Buckley and her team generated that highlights that the current projection, which is going to change still slightly over the next month or so, is that our total savings or reduction in projected operating deficit is about 7.2 million, but that doesn't include resignations and some other things that are happening. So I'm cautiously optimistic that we're in a fairly stable position, especially recognizing we do have cash reserves, and also recognizing that we have about well over $1 million of vacancy position reserves.
Okay.
So, comprehending those two, that's something that we're obviously keeping our finger on as we're looking at bringing in the Vice President of Marketing and Communications and any other significant roles. But for the most part, we're in a good position moving forward, I believe. Not to say that there isn't more that we're going to have to do.
Yeah, I mean, it would be wrong to have the entire meeting go without discussing that. We had the so-called resource action layoffs, restructuring of our staff, and it's no secret, we've been talking about that for many months, and we saw the $9 million deficit. This is designed to address that. Worked in pretty close collaboration, particularly with respect to the blue-collar unions, to see that those who were laid off here had an opportunity, and many took advantage of it, of getting other positions within the county or the library system, and that's been a positive here. But of course, when anyone loses their job, any group of people, and it's coming at your behest, it's a difficult and painful thing, and we can only resort to the fact that the numbers are unforgiving, and we have an organization and a fiduciary duty here to run the place in a way that allows it to continue. And no one relishes these changes, and we all feel a great deal of concern for those who were affected. And we hope that they can quickly, given the low unemployment rate prevailing and maybe the opportunities to transfer even within unionized positions within the county, that the effect of this is minimal, we hope. It's never good, to have your life rearranged and lose your job. But we are trying to maintain an awareness of that and a sensitivity to that while we take actions that we really have no choice but to take. So just that comment for the record.
I'd also like to just comment, when we talk about these financials, we can never not focus on the fact that we have a significant enterprise resource planning tool challenge ahead of us. And as most of the people on the board recognize, we engaged with iTech out of Buff State, who had several third parties as well as former CIOs of Suny colleges participate in a sizing for what it would take for us to migrate from the current Workday solution to an Ellucian banner solution. And the projection is around $22 million over the next 5 years. And that's a tough pill to swallow. We've spent about $12.5 million on Workday, and the Huron Consulting Group supported that. And the challenge and the reason this projected bill is so great ties to the fact that we still have a responsibility to maintain Colleague, which was the ERP system that was in place in 2015 before we even looked towards Workday. And as we migrate off Workday, we're going to have to figure out basically how to do that. Recognizing Scott's team has a lot of different responsibilities, and in all likelihood, our preferred approach would be to have our resources focused on the new system as opposed to continuing to work and look over their shoulders at historical systems. With that said, we have to recognize that we are going to have to maintain Colleague, which is where we've got 70 or 80% of our historical data archived, and that's critical that we maintain that, primarily because we don't want to move it to Workday and then eventually have to move it to Banner. We're working with Colleague, which is also an Ellucian product, to say, look, how can we come up with a global approach to being able to satisfy our needs without incurring significant expense.
That's helpful new information. This is a big problem, and it's no secret. It's been publicly reported, discussed at every board meeting. I would say with the 8 million, call it, in savings that have been achieved through the resource actions, stabilizing, at least in the short term, our finances, and with enrollment at least holding steady, it has now stepped into our number one problem. Whereas the survival on a sheer operating basis was what we talked about for the last 6 months or more.
Well, also, I just want to highlight, the challenge of this is very tactical in that, frankly, without Kathy Colesto and Scott Irmer, we would have much more significant problems in that, we have data reporting requirements for accreditation for the Department of Education. And unfortunately, the system that is in place with Workday was not ready for prime time, and it's impacting our ability to do things efficiently, such that, Kathy Colesto is spending hundreds of hours of time developing a report that should be push button.
I see.
I mean, this efficiency challenge is really a significant one. And, again, by the time all is said and done, I'm sure Kathy Colesto and Scott Irmer will be experts in, more things than they care to be. But, it's also requiring, candidly, that we maintain more resource than we'd ideally typically retain. And that resource challenge, just so we're all clear, is going to be the fact that we're going to have to support probably a Huron consulting group organization to continue to support Workday. We're going to have to get the right skills in place to support Banner moving forward while we maintain our colleague relationship.
Those are painful bills to see on the monthly payment list. They really are. And this will be a subject of great, significant board discussion. But at this point, I do want to just never fail to thank Kathy, Scott, and everyone who's struggling under this system to try to keep us functioning while we are operating under a, to be generous, a very imperfect system. And it's really hurting us. So big subject of concern. I believe we'll be best served by being candid about it. We're having a public meeting here, and we're talking about it. And there's no point in sugarcoating this, putting it under a basket. It's what we're dealing with, and we need help from all quarters. So,
yeah. Also, just to bring everyone up to speed, we continue to be supported in a terrific way by Mike Notarius and the iTech team out of Buff State. Frankly, they're providing us a CIO as a service through the end of August for free. My strategy moving forward will be to ultimately get a CIO that we have to support, full-time CIO. My current preference, primarily for financial reasons and the resource support reasons, is to leverage the CIO as a service model out of iTech for a longer period of time, because really it's a very cost-effective model and one in which they're very comfortable bringing additional resource to the table as needed to support whoever's in that seat. So, it's unfortunate that SUNY Erie didn't tap into the Banner infrastructure initially, but I have to tell you, the iTech organization has been fantastic to work with, and
David, I feel better about this than I have in months, as the general direction we're going. It's still a very, very big millstone around our neck, but this is, I think, heading in the right direction. So this will be a subject of constant discussion and evaluation. I think the dashboard, I think we're probably best served. We know where we are. We had the $9 million. We've basically taken an $8 million step.
It's closer to like 7.2 now, but it should be bumping back up.
A little more, yeah. And I think our county partners are very cognizant of where we are, both with the financial part, which has been understood for quite a while. But I think the level of awareness with our sponsoring organization, Erie County, is going up with respect to the ERP problem that we have. The ledge is focused on it. The county executive is quite aware of it. David's meetings with County Executive Kolinkars have been helpful in that respect. So I think people are beginning to realize that we've got, we don't just have an enrollment problem here that's been nationwide and we're part of it. This is a unique SUNY Erie problem that we really have to deal with. So I'll stop there, I think. Yeah, just the minutes, very good. When the July minutes come out, you can always see what the latest discussion is. So I think that's probably subject, Denise, to your thoughts or any other comments where I would stop.
Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate that. Was able to hear a lot of the conversation, so I appreciate your thorough report. I do know we have to go back up for board approval items, the human resources agenda. May I have a motion?
Yes, no, I'll second then, Len. That we approve the page 81 positions. Right, you made it right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The HR agenda is approved. We do have, and the items for board information are presented. Next is the Policy and Governance Committee. That is chaired by Melody Baker, Trustee Baker. In her absence, we do have one item up for approval. Dr. Sagai, would you take that?
Absolutely. I think I will ask Scott Ermer to talk to that. This was a policy renewal speaking to specifically account for individuals who have retired from the college. Scott, you want to talk to that?
Good morning. So the only change with the emeritus policy was just wrapping up what we approved last month with the new acceptable use policy. Previously, retirees, Chancellor Award recipients, emeritus recipients received an email account for life. Looking into this further, our cyber insurance policy does not cover any of those individuals, so that was a huge liability and risk to continue that service. It's also not a free service. We paid for every single one of those accounts monthly, so looking at the number of individuals that were taking advantage of that was rather low. So, in the best interest of the college, we removed that from the acceptable use policy last month, and then officially being removed from the policy this month for emeritus. So that was the only change to that policy.
I was wondering why you were coming up to talk about this. But okay, I was curious what the difference was as well.
Right, because it's really the IT was driving it. We spent a lot of time talking about the security and what that looks like in terms of benefits, so that's why I thought it was appropriate to bring him to speak to that.
I think it was three words struck from that policy.
Seems to make sense.
Yeah. I mean, the liability concern alone really justifies this action.
It was a nice gesture, but the cost outweighs, right?
The environment has changed such that it's a much more significant concern.
I guess we need approval, Denise, for that?
So that was the only item that was discussed, chairwoman in the policy committee, and then everything else, we didn't have any new policy.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve the policy and governance agenda item, policy on emeritus status?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Is it all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have the minutes for board information, as Dr. Sagai just mentioned. And now moving down to the strategic planning, Trustee Phillips.
Okay, so we met on July 12th. We had a good meeting, but you got most of what we discussed from Kathy's presentation earlier. So we did spend a good deal of time going through that presentation that she gave you, and it was so good we wanted to make sure it was shared here today, as well as going through Dr. Balkin's goals, which we also included in the presentation today. At the meeting, Dr. Sagai suggested that there be a background Middle States presentation for both new board members and other board members wanted to join, and we did do that, and I did think it was pretty helpful. So if any other board members who weren't able to make the meeting want to look through that presentation, it's helpful when you sit here and get so much information to kind of have of a background on the Middle States process. So thank you for that, Dr. Sagai and Kathy. We also had a good presentation from, excuse me, Dr. Erickson Nalens. He gave a strategic enrollment management plan, which I thought was very interesting. You'll be able to see more thorough notes from it at the next meeting. They'll be included But he discussed a growth opportunity in enrollment for students, adult learners. I think it was 25 to 34 was the range. A very interesting take. He suggested that we could really affect our enrollment numbers by sort of targeting this group and offering more wraparound services, extended times in order to address those student needs. That we'll have that presentation included with the minutes for the next, for anybody that wants to dive more deeply in it. Is there anything else? I think with the presentation Kathy gave, we really covered everything that we did at the last meeting, so I think that about covers it.
And then the only thing to add is really our report from Middle State is due, as you know, in September. And they will, after that, they will let the college know of who the committee or what that would look like in terms of coming to the college and doing a site visit, whether it's virtual or in person. Our representative from Middle State will continue to communicate with the college to give us that update, and then we'll let the board know.
Any questions or comments from anybody about any of those topics? And then, of course, we included the minutes from the previous meeting from June is attached to the agenda for anyone's review. Okay, then I think that's at our next meeting. Actually, Kelly, did we land on a date?
After you guys vote on these meetings, then I'll be sending out.
Okay, all right. Well, we don't currently have the next meeting date set, but we will get that. I'll make sure everybody knows about it in case anybody else wants to join.
Thank you, Trustee Phillips, and I think you're up next with technology as well.
Oh, yeah, okay. So for technology, we met on July 6th. It was Dr. Balkin and Scott Irmer and I. And we had some overlap with what Jeff discussed already, so we spent a fair amount of time on that, so I won't dig into that. I think there'll be some overlap on the two committees in that section. And actually, I'd like to start attending yours for that purpose, but...
And we can talk offline if it fits better over there. I just kind of wanted to not have it not be talked about.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Just stay every month on it, and we can figure out the lines.
And so just besides that, we got our normal Workday and various infrastructure updates from Scott. Scott, did you have a brief summary of those? I'll let Scott discuss that.
Yeah, the full minutes from the meeting are online, obviously, but I just want to highlight a few items that we're working on. Obviously, the past 2 years, we've been heavily focused on security. We've been spending a great deal of resources, not necessarily funding, but resources securing that up. So one of the items and services that we purchased was the Suny SOC, which is their Security Operations Center. It's a very minimal cost. It gets us a lot of scanning, remote tools, free consulting hours, and also included in that is an annual internal penetration test. A lot of the attacks that we get are externally, but a lot of institutions don't focus internally. So they spent the entire month of May with a team, attempting to exploit our entire internal network. The SOC engineer who gave us the report at the end did mention that internally we were one of the most protected networks that they've scanned to date. A lot of the initial testing that they've done, they usually compromise systems within a day or two. 95% of what they did, they spent the entire month of May and weren't able to penetrate anything. So they did give us a list of recommendations after. We have over 70% of those remediated already, just working on the last few. So we're in a much better place than where we were 2 years ago. We already have our follow-up scan for next year scheduled for February. Along the lines of security is our physical security. Currently, the video surveillance system at all 3 campuses is over 20 years old. It's a very rudimentary system back then, not very sophisticated. When security has to go and find video, it's a manual process of looking through the camera, manually watching hours of video. So we're currently engaged with a vendor and our campus security office, speccing out a new system for the North Campus and then most likely the City Campus as well. these new systems. They're cloud-based, full search and analytics capability. You can find a person wearing a red shirt and blue pants, and it'll automatically bring up and correlate all that video. You can do license plate scanning, ties into local DMV systems if you're looking for somebody, and it can also provide access to external police agencies, something that we do not have that capability now. So, Mark Petrolak, he's already contacted the county, and he believes he has a source for some grant funding that's either going to be very minimal cost to the college or completely, entirely covered. So we're just working on that project as well.
Yeah, I should also note that, the timing of upgrading the system is to the point now where you can't even get replacement parts for the systems we have. So
Yeah, we don't want to put any new money into an old system. And
Oh,
we want to
no,
look to the
that's
future.
ripe for replacement, for sure.
So hopefully that'll get fully covered for grants.
Good.
The Workday Project, a lot of things going on. We're doing a health check with the finance system with Arda. Arda's kind of downstream from everything that happens ahead of her through admissions, registering, bill payments, so she gets left with the brunt of decisions that were not made by her. So currently have an engagement streamlining a lot of her processes, reducing a lot of manual GL entries, keeping things on Excel spreadsheets and compiling. So that's going on this month and next month. Hoping to save a lot of time in her area. Doing a similar project through the grants module. A lot of times the grant dates do not line up with our fiscal dates, which makes reporting more difficult. So working on 3 reports that will potentially reduce all that manual compiling of information in Excel and streamline that department as well. The Suny Global ID project, that was a project to uniquely identify all SUNY students and employees. The student portion of that is complete. We're hoping to have the employee portion done either tomorrow or Monday. And that has a lot of impacting with the serious state reporting that Kathy is working on. And a lot of shared services. Our new learning management system, Brightspace's Desire to Learn, that's replacing Blackboard. That is a SUNY-wide system, a shared system that relies on that global ID project. So continue on with that Brightspace. We did load, I think, 25 pilot courses for summer 1, a very similar number for summer 2, and then we have almost all the data loaded for fall, where every single course will be in that new environment. Fall 2020, Brightspace will be our LMS. Blackboard will not be used after that date. So that's going, and then Dr. Balkin mentioned most of the banner investigation. Just wanted to add that proposal and number that he gave was not just the software. That included staff augmentation from SUNY and ITech, project management services, business process analysis, getting our data governance and IT governance under control. So a lot more services around there that will help be a successful implementation.
It's helpful to have that color, Scott, yeah. As between Carrie's committee and mine, for the moment, if you could just plan on attending both, there's such a financial aspects to this that the budget part of it, I just want to keep that in the mix. In the next month or 2, we can meet offline and figure that out, whether it's just maybe an abbreviated report at the budget committee and more. I think it probably belongs in technology, really, but there's such a financial impact that, and it's such the elephant in the room that it's not completely wrong to have it in 2 courts. So, with apologies for 2 meetings.
No, that's fine.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Dr. Balkin? I think that.
No, I mean, I think, candidly, Scott provided the proper color.
Yeah.
There is a lot ahead of us, and frankly, once we get it behind us, I think we'll be in a really strong position, but it's going to take time. And, any transition that we're talking about isn't a month thing, we're talking years to transition off, which is part of the reason why we have to maintain licenses for a period of time in one platform as we migrate to a new.
Any other questions or comments from anyone? So then our next meeting is scheduled for August 23rd at noon. And that's it.
Thank you, Trustee Phillips. Thank you, Scott, for that report. Next we have Trustee Lenahan with marketing.
Thanks, Denise. Yeah, we met last week, it was last Tuesday. Basically focused on two items. One, of course, is the introduction of the new Vice President for Marketing and Communications that we're working through, and also the need to bring him on as a part-timer as opposed to a contractor for IRS reasons or whatever, a couple of provisions that would not allow us to hire him if we chose to do so. The other, we had a nice report from Dr. Nealon's presentation. He's been working with the working group on looking at all the various platforms, print, digital, TV, radio, on how to build a better communication strategy, particularly, to try to track enrollment, and just to have that available for our marketing strategy in the long term. So, we're really focused on the arrival of Dr. Barone, who's now with us, and really looking at a whole new approach to how we market, more sophisticated approach with, I think, more talented people in place so we can get the job done. So that's pretty much what was it. We haven't announced our meeting yet, but we'll be in touch on that.
Thank you. For the report of the chair, you'll see the draft 2022-2023 Suny Area Board of Trustees schedule of meetings. If everyone can just take a minute to review these meetings, we need to approve, or excuse me, these meeting dates, we need to approve them. If you are already, if you know that you are unable to attend a meeting, please let Kelly know that so we can monitor quorum. Of course, things come up just as it did today with us, with me, and we'll go from there. May I have a motion to approve the draft 2022-2023 Suny Area Board of Trustees meeting schedule?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Just to also add to my report, we have, I've been working closely with Dr. Balkin and other staff as we're navigating the transitions of the college. I've been talking to many community leaders and elected officials regarding the status of the college. I remain very optimistic as to where we are, that there is only up from here, and I'll share more information as it is made available to me regarding the different conversations. With that, we have the nominating committee. Lynn, Trustee Lynn?
Yes, thank you, Denise. Okay, so I have surveyed all our members over the past couple weeks about a slate of officers for next year. And the following people have expressed interest in serving in the various positions. One, Chair Jeff Stone, our Vice Chairman, is interested in moving up to be Chair. Melody Baker has expressed an interest in being Vice Chair. And Carrie Phillips is willing to take on the role of Secretary with her very busy role as a city court judge, but we appreciate her willingness to do that. So we'll present those names now that we reflected in the minutes, and of course at our next meeting in September, late September, we'll elect the officers at that time. Other people who are interested in serving in these various capacities can offer their names and put their names forward. So right now our slate is Jeff Stone, Melody Baker, and Carrie Phillips.
Thank you, Lynn. That is a terrific slate of candidates. Wow. Well, I'm excited for that September meeting. Not that I'm excited to leave my position. You know, I don't know if it's another panel or something you guys needed me to facilitate, but ready to, you know, move over to let this new slate of trustees do great things. Report of the president. I know we had an enrollment update from Erickson, but I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Boca.
Yeah, actually.
I'm sorry. I misread. You're fine. I'm sorry.
So, as you're aware, I had Dr. Nalins present on enrollment already. With respect to the monthly report, you know, frankly, most of the information revolves around the recent resource actions. You know, I do want to take a moment to thank everyone, especially the leadership of the 4 unions that were involved. Not an easy action, as Vice Chairman Stone has highlighted, but definitely a necessary one. And you know, I'm optimistic that, you know, as a result of this, there's a recognition that we do have to change the culture and our collaboration ability moving forward to ensure that we're all going to thrive together. You know, frankly, I don't want to rehash a lot of the things I kind of chimed in on. I think we talked about the enterprise resource planning issue adequately, but you know, I do also want to make a special point to thank Cynthia Buckley. Dr. Buckley has been just amazing in helping us to get everything done in a terrifically timely manner, and she's cultivated just terrific relationships with the various union members, the union leadership, the county. In a short amount of time, she's had just a tremendous impact on our college, and frankly, I look forward to all the benefits that we're going to be able to glean from her expertise moving forward. So thank you, Dr. Buckley. And frankly, I hate not having a president's report where I don't thank everybody in the room. I mean, I highlighted how much we appreciate everything that Kathy Colesto is doing. Look forward to leveraging Chris Musilowski in a greater way to, again, develop stronger relationships in the community. I don't know if everyone's aware, but effective July 1st, Dr. Patty Lucido has assumed the leadership role of the AAECC. I look forward to working closely with her moving forward. Again, thank you, Scott, and you know, I can't say enough about all the things that Dr. Sagai is doing to support the college moving forward. So across the board, it's been a phenomenal team effort, and I'm excited to see how Mike Barone adds to the team. I think, frankly, one of the challenges we have now is to pull together, start talking about how we can best influence the culture of all of our respective organizations to make it really a seamless, strong organization moving forward. And I think we have a leadership team in place to do that. So again, thank you all, and appreciate the board's support.
Thank you, Dr. Baldwin. Next, we'll have the student trustee report.
So I have contact with a couple of students from South, and they're bringing like concerns about the information about what is going on with the South campus, if they are going to close down or not, if the programs are going to be moved to North or City. They are really interested in getting to know this kind of information. And as the meeting was going on, I noticed Dr. Sagai was talking about like the college supporting students. And I kind of linked with some of my past, say, colleagues in the program. And I noticed that most students that are enrolling in the college, it's usually two different options. Or they are enrolling in the college to keep their jobs or to get a better position in their actual job, or they're just trying to move on and like find a new thing to do in their life. And the second option, when they're trying to like find something better to do, I think that they come to the college and they have an idea of how things are going to be. They graduate and they rarely find a job, so they just end working in the same job or they work in a different field. So I think maybe the college can do something to support them or to give them like a better idea of where to look for jobs or what to do, or give like a better training, because they just lose faith in the college. Like, well, I just go to the college and I spend my money and I don't find a job. I wish I just could like have saved all the money that I spent. So these are just like some of the concerns that I can think about right now, and it will be like really awesome to do something about it.
So if I can comment, I think those are excellent insights. And I'll tell you, moving forward, one of the things that we'd very much like to do is have our career services engage with students from the get-go. And my vision, and one that I've shared with the senior executive staff several times, is this idea of ensuring that every student is connected with an internship or a work opportunity that will give them the opportunity to ensure that the program they're pursuing is going to bear the fruit that they want at the end of it. And we're talking about different marketing strategies, especially for certain programs that are in high demand, high wage jobs. What we really want to do is ensure that people recognize before they even start what the opportunities are in those programs, and that they go in with their eyes open. The people who are working in a field, working for a company, are trying to just improve their skill set. Oftentimes they're looking to improve their competencies, whatever. What we're trying to do is also engage with their employers to ensure that we are focused on the right competencies that are required to advance people's careers. So I think your insights are perfectly aligned with what we recognize as a challenge. And moving forward, we have to address this in order to ensure that we're staying relevant and providing value to both our students and in local industry. So, if you can help us specifically identify majors or programs where people are having problems, and ensuring that they're alerted to the fact that we do have a career center, so that they're taking, full advantage of all the things that we can bring to bear to help them secure the greatest benefit from their education.
And that includes after leaving us, right? Can they still come back and work in that center and get leads?
Without a doubt. And as we talk about marketing, I'll tell you, one of the things that I spoke to Mike Barone about was this idea of better promoting all the successes from Erie County that are in the community, from Erie Community College that are resident in the community, because it's easy for us to reach out to alumni and based on what they're working in, ask them what they need and how we might best supply them with a pipeline of qualified workers. So it's a subset of the total, but we have a lot of wildly successful graduates who are very interested in promoting our current graduates. So to that end, we just need to figure out how to work together better. I think this is part of the reason why it makes sense to have Chris Musilowski over workforce and, closely engaged with career services moving forward.
The first part of Marcel's statement dealt with communication and whether the students on South Campus, what's happening. I realize that it's been reported on heavily here, it's been reported on in the news. To the extent those students aren't seeing that information, is there something we can do more targeted to give them that information about what's happening at South Campus?
Definitely, and frankly, part of the reason why I want to lean on Mike Barone, who's got much more expertise in internal communications. But to that end, I'd be more than happy to go down and have speaking sessions where students can come in and ask questions and get a better handle on exactly what our strategy is and how we're going to move forward.
The other thing too, myself and Marcel met about how the SGA could be empowered more, and some of the ideas that Marcel and his team have in terms of what it is that we need to do to market internally. Because that's one of the things that I know we were challenged before, but that is some of the ideas that we are talking about. So part of it is how do we also not only go and speak to our students, but also how do we empower them so that they could also answer some of those questions because they have the information. So I know we have a scheduled meeting, like every 2 weeks we're meeting, to really talk through that to see what can we do to ensure that the SGA and other organizations, student organizations in the college is empowered, informed, but also make sure that we are responding to them in a timely manner.
Additionally, one thing that I think I may have highlighted previously is that we have a very large general studies program. And frankly, it shouldn't be large. We should be directing people into programs that will result in more tangible competencies and result in job opportunities. It's something that we're looking at internally with Dr. Naylands, with Dr. Sagai. But moving forward, I think everyone needs to recognize that general studies, typically, if you just complete an associate's degree in general studies, is a difficult program to leverage a high-paying job out of. And we could do much better by directing them to other health sciences programs. There's just a lot of high-demand, high-wage programs that they should be focused on if they don't get into their program of choice initially. Because that's really a default program oftentimes if someone doesn't get into nursing or they don't get into another relatively closed program.
Given how much we've been in the news lately with everything, it's rare when I'm not reading about Erie Community College at the moment, and taking Amanda's point about the students being worried and others about what's going on in the South Campus, I just want to bring up to the fore and revive the idea that we talked about as we were going through the recruiting process with you and in the first couple of board meetings, and that is, sort of a speech on the state of the college. And it should come from you, and you're the voice and face of the college. And the question in my mind right now is, when is the best time for that? One thought occurs to me at or around convocation, but you don't necessarily want to mix those events. What I'm picturing is something like Mark Polenkar's The State of the County, Byron Brown's The State of the City. Those get a lot of coverage, and they get a big article, and you could tie in what's happening with South. Talk about the resource action. Talk about the ERP problem. Be very transparent and take command of the narrative. And I just think this is a great opportunity. The specific charge I would have now is to say, with your team, including Erickson, for example, what's the best timing when it comes to enrollment for me to make this speech? I just see real value in that, and I think a lot of other trustees do as well. So I want to put that forward and have you think about that, please,
so,
David?
Again, I think that's a fantastic idea, and I do believe, now that we have a vice president of marketing communications, it'll be a little bit cleaner to be able to say how we should do this on a regular basis. I mean, historically, for whatever reason, the college has not done a great internal communications job, nor have we developed a calendar that people can say, we know what's coming. And we should be promoting the calendar of activities and events in a way that everyone can at least anticipate
this
what we're
speech
doing.
would have a big external component, but it would also maybe address what Amanda was saying about South. When a student reads that the president is speaking and said this about South, that becomes then what we're talking about. So I think there's a lot that's gone on. As much as we've struggled at this table and you in your office, there's a lot that has moved forward since you've been here. So I think there might be seize an opportunity to talk about that, and yes, acknowledge the difficulties, but I'd really like to set the narrative, because we're being looked at all over.
Well, to that point, and one thing that probably hasn't been maybe promoted adequately is the fact that the college has gone forward for $13 million in capital to the county. And that's going to be reviewed by the legislature, and that includes $5 million for South Campus and $5 million for North Campus, both of which would be matched by the state if we're able to secure it. So again, the fact that we are aggressively pursuing capital for the South should give people some level of assurance that we're not abandoning the region, but we are going to redefine what that footprint looks like and how best to have an impact in that space.
Just to comment on this the speech, and I know when Mike Barone started putting forth some ideas to respond to that, but I was just thinking a great venue for a speech to the community, I think would be the partnership, because it would highlight our workforce development relationships, it would highlight our connection to the business community and the need to get their support. I just think that's a great venue every year to give that speech in that context. Just
very interesting. And well, with your business background, Dave, and your fundraising background, you find it a very natural and comfortable environment there.
Yeah.
Anytime comes.
So thoughts?
I just want to, I mean, we're talking about a lot of high-level things, getting money from the county, things like that, and that's amazing and definitely needs to be talked about and spoken about. But from just looking at from the student perspective, I think they're just asking for, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marcel, but they're asking for what's happening now and how is it impacting me. And I know Bill Reuter used to do a from the president's desk or a message from the president. Was just a little email write-up that went up to everyone. That something like that would be appropriate, and maybe a little bit more often than not until things, settle down a little bit as we're ramping up to the fall semester. So maybe just a short, not a short, but an email correspondence, just letting, a few bullet points and things like that. I don't believe that you need to necessarily have a listening session, although you could, but maybe one or two correspondence in August that goes out as they're prepping for the fall semester. The other piece to this is the public relations consultant that we contracted with. I'm wondering if they can help get us some good messaging out to the students as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, I speak with Adam Crowley of Tri-Sales Strategies, a couple times a week, and this is a topic of conversation to figure out how best to get the positive messaging out. Frankly, my goal here is to really try to focus on the positive. Now that we've got most of the concerns behind us, we're still going to be tweaking, we're still going to be, adjusting things, realigning, reorganizing a little bit. But as far as the impact to students, my hope is that it's minimal and we can, again, start better promoting all the collaborations and the successes we're having, which frankly just haven't been promoted adequately historically.
Okay, well then perhaps we can get something scheduled for August for Marcel and his constituents.
Yep.
Thank you.
The other thing that worked well during this time, before we move on, and we were COVID, COVID restrictions, but the several WebEx forums that we had did bring in a lot of attention as well, that were led by Bill. So perhaps we can do maybe a couple letter correspondence and then have a online forum.
Yeah, actually, I would love, Marcel, for you to kind of share what you think is going to be the most attended and or best received methodology for communicating to the student body.
They are just really looking for specific information.
But how do we deliver it?
That's the problem, because if you send an email, not everybody's gonna look at it. If you
Right.
send a text message, same thing. So maybe something in the college website could be helpful, because they when they look for some college information, they don't really look at the news to see what is going on. They go to the college page. So maybe the college page could be something. And I could say something to post some information on the boards there, but they don't really look at the boards. Mm-hmm. So maybe I think the website is probably the best one.
Maybe with a quick text message, no more than a sentence long, saying,
Go to the website.
Go to the website to
Yeah.
see about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. Because if
the
it's
phone
like
is the first.
3 to 4 lines, 2 sentences, that's too much. They're like, well, it's something from the college. I'm not gonna look at it.
Right, keep it short.
Thank you. Colleen is unable to attend. She did let us know that she has no report for today. Is there any old business?
Denise, before we move off the Senate, just a question, I think for David here. Remember the last Senate meeting you attended and you handled all those questions and the faculty actually engaged pretty effectively with you, questioned the RPK report, and then we had arrangements in the minutes that said, anyone who has significant concerns about the RPK report, please send them to the provost's office and we'll deal with it. One thing that I would like to promote here, even in the absence of a Senate report, is the notion that if the RPK report is out there with alleged inaccuracies, we should get them cleaned up very quickly, because that RPK report is the basis for actions that have been taken already, could be taken going forward, and you just don't want to be, sharp shot if there's easy things that, let's reach a common consensus on what the facts are. And I'm not sure how that's best achieved. I know emails were going to the provost office when I last checked.
There's a plan. I don't know if you want to talk about that, Dr. Bulk.
We have a plan for that?
We reach out, yes, absolutely. So we gathered the questions, the concern that came to the office, as well as the report that was sent by the Senate and team to the committee as well as to the college. Gave that to the RPK leadership. They were able to construct an a memo rather, kind of indicating some of the high themes that were brought up, but also they are having a WebEx with the college on August 12th? August 12th, and that was sent to the entire committee as well as the Senate, so that we will have live, so that we would answer RPK specifically, because there were a lot of specific questions to RPK, so their leadership is going to respond.
And if factual inaccuracies are identified and they have some kind of impact on the conclusions reached, identify that. That's fine. But let's get to a point where the RPK report is not being criticized as being inaccurate, one way or another.
I do believe that the memo was sent to the Board of Trustees as well, so I think you sent it from the President's office, and the consensus that they've come to determine is that there was misunderstandings, not inaccuracies.
Okay. All right,
And
that's
so they're
helpful.
opening up a platform on the 12th for all faculty, staff, and the community to come with any other questions or clarifications they need.
All right, that's, I think, productive and good. Let's see if Colleen Quinn and Andy and others agree. Hopefully they do, if that solves it.
Is this just a listening session for RPK on the August meeting where the faculty can ask questions?
Yeah, so
or are they really going to be getting answers in the same
In the
time?
memo, there was a link for anyone who wants to attend to register and send questions ahead of time. And I believe that they will be able to be unmuted and ask questions if there's time for that. But they're hoping to get most of those questions ahead of time. So anything that's been coming into the provost's office since that message from Dr. Balkin went out has been sent to RPK so that they can be prepared.
That's encouraging. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for that discussion. Leaving off, is there any old business? Is there any new business?
One question that I have, with respect to new business, and I think we were originally not planning on having a board meeting in August. And if possible, I think we need to have a board meeting because of contract renewal requirements. So again, I recognize, Madam Chair, you may not be available, but if we can possibly secure a quorum so that we can ensure that we're renewing a number of agreements that will be expiring, it's going to be critical that we do that, even if it's an abbreviated session.
Okay, I'll ask Kelly to send out a meeting, a doodle poll or some sort to get a few dates down for August.
Denise, the only thing I had maybe under new business, and tell me if this should be postponed or whatever, but I think, David, you submitted a reimbursement request for your move under your contract, and that may need, theoretically, under the wording of your contract, board approval. So if that's something we want to take care of now, I don't think there's any controversy about it, but Denise?
There's no controversy about it, but it probably should be done officially in executive session, from what I've been told, because it deals with an employee contract.
Oh, yeah, terms and conditions.
Okay.
I think we come out to vote, correct?
Yeah.
To approve.
Yeah.
If it needs discussion, I guess it can happen in executive session. If it's merely an approval.
Yeah, and just to be clear for anyone who's interested, my contract term included some moving and living expenses, and I have one bill for my bill of lading and the receipt for this expense that exceeded the contractual commitment from the college. So it's not like I have a pile of receipts, just one component of my move more than covered the allowable expense.
So I do have that receipt in my present. I'm not going to show it in this public forum, but I am in favor of approving it. If the board, if it is of the board's will to go into executive session, we can do so. Other than that, we can approve it and move forward.
I guess I would say this. I would move that we approve it in the. We've seen, all of us have been provided with it, and it's a receipt below the it's a receipt above the level at which we're obliged to reimburse, and it appears legitimate to me. So I don't know beyond that what we would talk about in executive session. So if unless there's a significant reason to break and go into executive session and talk about it, I would propose we just take care of this item and vote yes for it. I would make a proposal. I would, not a motion yet, but I want to make sure everyone's on board with that before we actually do it.
Okay. So let me ask, is there a motion to approve the president's expenses as presented?
I'll move it.
And I'll second it, consistent with the contract that we have with the president.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is approved. So there's no other need to go into executive session. The schedule of next month's meeting is, it may be in August, but there is definitely going to be a meeting September 29th, 2022 at 9 a.m. Suny Erie's North Campus. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Did we want to decide on the August meeting, or is that going to be offline if we talk about that?
Yeah, we'll have to do that offline because we need to make sure everyone can attend.
Okay.
I will not be able to attend. Well, depending on when it is.
So basically, we'll be calling a special meeting if we decide to, and if we need one.
Well, we definitely need one.
Okay.
So yes, it will be a special meeting.
So we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
Oh, motion to adjourn.
Yep,
I'll make that motion.
to adjourn. Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. I'm sure everyone has been favored. Have a great rest of the summer, everyone, and we'll be in touch. Have a good day.
Thank you. Can the August meeting be virtual? We could probably get better attendance that way if it's allowed to be virtual.
Sure. Well, all of them can. Everyone can attend virtually.